So today is cars number 1 and licensing requirements number 1. And our objectives and goals for today's ground school is to do an introduction to the AIM of the cars and the P-Star. So just kind of, I know some of you guys are already halfway through the P-Star and stuff, so that's great. And you already have kind of got some information on those references and stuff. And then as well, we're going to be going over what are the requirements for a commercial license. So we're going to be looking in the cars to actually find the answer for that. So that'll be kind of good. And then just going a little bit over the radio license as well. Just the basics on that. So it'll be short. That's why I figured we'll get going right away here. So off the bat, let's look at our main 2 references. The cars. Does anybody have the cars open yet?
No, it got closed.
Okay.
I do have AIM open. It's the PDF on the bottom.
Okay, yeah, I see it here too.
That was the download page, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So if you guys want to find cars, if you just search cars, it used to be the second thing that pops up right underneath the animated movie.
Yeah.
But now I think it's actually all the way down on the second page. You can also search Canadian aviation regulations, and then obviously it'll be the first thing that pops up. But I think Transport Canada has been doing a pretty poor job at keeping it on the top page. Wow, it's like, did I miss it?
No, I would add TC or something.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to Google Canadian aviation regulations. There it is.
First thing that pops up.
Perfect. Okay.
I think it was the...
Yeah, it's this one. Okay, so cars. This is all regulations by Transport Canada. So what happened is a bunch of years ago they got together and said, okay, this whole flying thing is getting to be a big deal, and so we should probably make a whole bunch of rules for it. So they all sat down together, they formed a bunch of rules and said, okay, I think everybody should follow these rules. And then they gave that to a lawyer and said, okay, write us something that's legal. And then they gave it to the lawyers, they wrote out something that's legal, and then we have to deal with reading that and interpreting it, which isn't always the easiest thing to do. Sometimes it's pretty cut and dry, like you guys are going to see. We're going to look at the requirements for a commercial helicopter license. It's pretty cut and dry. This is what you need. Then there's other regulations and stuff where it's like, it's open to interpretation. It's a little bit gray, and it's subject to a different part of the cars. You got to go search in the different part of the cars and stuff. So it's not the easiest thing. It's not like it's just this short little set of rules and it's like, here it is, black and white. Sometimes it's open to interpretation, and sometimes you call Transport Canada to get an interpretation, and they'll be like, well, this is my interpretation, but let me ask the other guys and we'll see if we can get an answer for you. So it's kind of brutal sometimes, actually. You're looking for something clear cut, and they're like, yeah, I think you're okay with that, or let's get a ruling on it, right? And somebody will give you their opinion, but unless it's officially written down or something, it's just their opinion, right?
Just imagine the court case fallout from that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's a reason why it's left like that, is because in some situations they want to have a little bit of gray, so that in the courts they could decide to go this way or that way or whatever on it, instead of cut and dry, and just which. It would make sense that if it was cut and dry, it would be easier, but apparently for their sake, maybe not. So we'll just have a quick run through it here. Over the years, I've found, since I've started flying anyways, all the government stuff, Transport Canada stuff, has been getting worse online. You'd think it'd be getting better over the years. It's been getting worse. So it's harder to search through. Their formatting is worse. So it's, I hope someday somebody just puts a bit of money and time into it and actually makes it good. But anyways, I find it getting harder and harder to actually go through. So cars 1, so they call it basically cars 100, 200, 300, 400, and so forth, or just part 1, 2, 3, 4. So part 1 is just general provisions. Part 2 is aircraft identification, registration, operation of a leased aircraft, and a non-registered owner. Part 3 is aerodromes, airports, and heliports. Part 4, this is what we're going to be looking at in a little bit, is personal licensing and training. And number 5 is airworthiness. Number 6 is general operating and flight rules. And then 7, this is going to be one that you guys are going to want to focus on here. This is commercial air services. So once you become a commercial pilot, everything that you guys are going to do as a commercial pilot is going to fall under one of these cars right here, cars 700. And so that's kind of an important one to sort of familiarize yourself with. By no means you're going to be sitting there trying to memorize it, but it wouldn't be a bad idea during the course at some point. Jump on here at home or whatever. It's a pretty boring read for the most part, but to actually read through it, the full section. The most important parts that are going to really affect you guys, at least for now anyways, are cars 702 and 703, okay? And that's the aerial work and air taxi. And so you can read through those. Aerial work is basically anything to do with a crew. So if you're doing like a hydro crew or a forestry crew or something like that, that would fall under the aerial work category. And if it's just a charter, like you're taking some tourists up to the mountains for a scenic picnic or something like that, that would fall under air taxi. So it's just a passenger, not considered a crew, somebody who's been trained to be in a helicopter kind of thing. So, so those are kind of your two main categories for those. So 700 is obviously a big one for you guys, and then obviously 8 is air navigation services, and then 9 is just repeals and coming into force. So that's things that basically are kind of in the works that might be coming kind of thing at some point. So, so then we have let's have a look here, we have 400. Okay, so then we have the regulation, and then we have the standard, okay? So the standard is basically it's a standard of what you would need to meet to get a certain thing. So let's use the example of getting a helicopter license. The standard to get a helicopter license is XYZ, and we'll look at that in 2 seconds here. However, once you have a commercial license, you would jump over to the regulation, and basically the regulation says what you're allowed to do with that. All right? So the standard is what you need to get it, and then the regulation is what you're able to do with it once you have it, kind of thing. Okay. So let's look at this example here. So flight crew permits, licensing, ratings. Now I find if you want to find something in cars, you just have to kind of slow down and read the different sections and figure out which section it would be in, right? So if you had a question saying, well, it has to do with licensing, well, you'd read through all the different sections until you came to something that says personnel, licensing, and training. Well, that sounds like a pretty good section. You have to figure out if it's a regulation or a standard, and then you read through until you figure out, is it something like, is it having to do with flight training or flight training unit? Flight training would actually be a pretty good section for that to be in, but it's not, because it doesn't have to do with the flight training as a whole. It has to do with you as a person getting a flight training license kind of thing, right? And then this is like flight training unit, so this would be, for me as a school, if I wanted to know, am I complying with all the regulations by Transport Canada to run a school, this is the section I would be looking in, right? So, so we'll jump into here. So now again, we just kind of read through the sections, and as you can see, we're into the hundreds here. Now, we're in the 400 section right now, so you can see the first number is a 4. If you're in the standard, the next number is going to be a 2, and if you're in a regulation, it's going to be a 0. So like cars 702, 703 is a regulation, but cars 720, whatever, and 730 would be a standard. So you kind of know the numbering based on if it's a 2 or a 0, if it's a standard or a regulation. So we're going to skim our way down here. We're looking for commercial pilot license, airplane, no, helicopter, yes. Okay? So 421.31 is the official section that we're actually in. So here it is here. And really, it's just a giant long text, and when you click on that little link, it just takes you to the section of the text that you're looking for. So you could actually read through the whole section if you wanted to. Now the interesting thing here, we'll have a read through and it won't make 100% sense because originally when we start reading through, it's actually going to base it on if you have a private license first. Because in some countries it's actually a requirement that you get a private license then commercial. So we'll burn through it and it'll all make sense here. So, and I'll kind of summarize parts of it. So your age, you have to be a minimum of 18 years of age or graduated high school, either one. Medical fitness, you have to have a Category 1 medical if you're going to get a commercial license. So Category 1 medical. Knowledge. So an applicant who holds, this is where it comes in, who holds a private pilot license, helicopter shall complete 40 hours of ground school in all these topics. Okay? Then they have to obtain 60% in a written exam called the CPHEL, Commercial Pilot Helicopter, under these 4 categories. So these are going to be the 4 categories that are going to be on the written exam. Okay? And then it says an applicant who does not hold a private pilot license helicopter shall complete an additional 40 hours commercial pilot ground school instruction for a total of 80 hours. So there, if you just started reading off in the beginning here, you go, oh great, I only need 40 hours. And then you read the whole thing, you go, oh no, okay, now I actually need 80, right? So as a commercial guy, you need 80 hours of total ground school. Now experience, this is flying stuff. So an applicant shall have completed a minimum of 100 hours of flight time in a helicopter, which a minimum of 35, so there's how we get the total of 100, which a minimum of 35 hours will be pilot and command flight time. So that's solo time. So you're going to do 35 hours of solo. In the solo, that'll include 10 hours of cross-country pilot and command time, so solo time. An applicant who holds a private license, well, we don't really care about that right now, but if we did, private or helicopter license shall be issued contractor state, complete 60 hours. So you only have to do 60 hours if you have a private license. Okay? So if you have a private, we're going to skip through this section here. This is what you would need to do if you have a private license. An applicant who does not hold a private license, we're going to complete 100 hours. We're going to do 55 hours of dual instruction. So we're getting into the solo up there, but let's have a look here first at the dual. So we do 55 hours of dual instruction flight time under the direct supervision of a holder of a flight instructor rating. In the dual, we're going to do 5 hours of cross-country time, and in addition to Part A, which is this, 10 hours of dual instrument flight time using suitable radio navigation facilities to complete elementary navigation, blah, blah, blah. Then include a minimum of 5 hours in a helicopter, so you can do, out of your instrument time, you could theoretically do 5 hours in a simulator if you want to, but you can't count that towards your 100-hour course. So most people just say, forget this simulator time, we'll just do it all in a helicopter. Makes it easier. Then you're going to have to do 35 hours of solo flight time, emphasizing the improvement of general flying abilities and skills, including cross-country flight to a point. So this is where we're going to do our long cross-country flight. Minimum of 2 hours flight time at normal cruise speed from the point of departure, including a minimum of 3 takeoffs and landings from points other than your point of departure. So that's where the 3 airports come in other than where you left from. Okay. The license shall be issued restricted to daylight flying. So it's going to be a daylight license only. If you want a night rating, that's an extra thing that you can get. Okay, so this is where we get our 100 hours total, 55 dual, 35 solo, and where we get our cross-country time as well. Okay. Interestingly enough, they talk about the solo cross-country up here, but they don't put it again down here. It's, like I say, it's not beautifully laid out here for you. But in the 35 hours, we need 10 hours of solo cross-country time, of which we got to do this long cross-country flight. Okay. Skill. So within the last 12 months, we have to successfully complete a flight test as pilot in command of a helicopter in accordance with Schedule 6, the flight test issuance of a commercial pilot license. So basically, according to their standard, you have to pass a flight test. Okay. So you have to have the 80 hours of ground school, the written exam, the all these flying hours, and a flight test at the end. Restricted license, daylight flying, so it talks about if you want to remove the restriction for daylight, how you can do that. There's credits, so if you are a airplane pilot, you can get credits for that. If you are a alternate, like a foreign license conversion, so you're coming from another country with a license, talks about that. There's credits if you're D&D, so military, so that's, you can get credits for that. And then, yeah, there's the foreign applicants. So, make sense? Cool. So this is how the CARS reads. Some of it's not too bad, funky, right? Some of it's a little dry and a little bit hard to understand, but for the most part, not too bad. Everybody's good with the CARS? Okay, cool. It's something that you're going to deal with for the rest of your life, so you want to get relatively comfortable with it. You don't want to avoid it like the plague, but like I say, it's not going to be the easiest thing to read through. So we got the cars there. We got the aim here. Okay. Cool. Except you downloaded in the PDF now. I'd like to see the whole format here. Yeah. Okay. So we have a hard copy somewhere kicking around too,
Here's
right?
a pair. Here's one.
Yeah. Here's one. So essentially, that's where you find it online. You can search, just Google search AIM, Aeronautical Information Manual. This is what the book looks like. The ones that you guys are going to get in the next few days here are a bit smaller. So we kind of got a smaller version, which is a little bit lighter and easier to use. So it has all of the categories that you guys see right here. So here's the abbreviation for it. So GEN is General, AGA is Aerodromes, Comm, Communication, MET, Meteorology, RAC, Rules of the Air, NHC, North Atlantic Operations, SAR, Search and Rescue, MAP, Aeronautical Charts, Publications, LRA, Licensing, Registration, Airworthiness, and the AIR, Airmanship. So what is the AIM? The AIM is basically, it's a continuation and an explanation on a lot of the rule stuff. So this is more general flying knowledge and information and stuff. And as you can see, it gets into just a little bit more overall stuff like maps and meteorology and communication and stuff like that. It has some similar things to the cars, but a lot of it's not just pure regulations. It's just knowledge for pilots to know. So again, you're not going to sit here and memorize through this book, but you're going to want to have a pretty good idea of what is in this book. And so through all these tests, the main purpose of all these tests that you guys are doing is to get you digging in these books and finding where this information is, learning some of it for sure, and then the rest of it is just kind of knowing where it is and going, oh yeah, okay, I could figure out what a standard male weighs in the summer because there's a chart in here that shows me what the weight is for a standard male or female or whatever. So if you were asked a question, you could look it up in this book. So kind of knowing those general tabs there and which, like what kind of information you could find in each one of those. I do find a really easy way to find stuff in this book, and yeah, again, it used to be before they PDF'd it all, it was actually really easy to search it online. Now it's made it harder. But if you go to the general section, and right here, there's an index of keywords. So if you guys are going through a test or something like that, and you're stuck on a certain thing that you're trying to find, in the index of keywords, just search for that keyword or phrase or whatever in here, and then it'll show you whatever it happens to be, true airspeed, what's the definition of that, or uncontrolled airspace or whatever. It'll show you where it is. So in this case, if we're talking about uncontrolled airspace, it's RAC, so RAC, 9.13. You zip over until you find RAC, 9.13. There it is. IFR procedures at an uncontrolled aerodrome and uncontrolled airspace. So takes you a few seconds, you're looking for a keyword, you find it, you find the section, you quickly buzz through here and you can find what you're looking for. So this book is actually really useful, really handy. I find, it's a little laborsome online, so as soon as your guys' come in, I think it'll be nice to have those just in hardcover because it actually is a little quicker to search through. The sucky thing about these books is they're out of date every like 3-4 months, so they're reissuing these constantly. To give you guys a little bit of a backstory about the evolution of these things, because it's going to be a little confusing in some of your guys' material because it's not updated. There will be the odd occasion where it refers to looking something up in the AIP, not the AIM, and you'll go, what on earth is an AIP? So this, back in the early days, used to be called the AIP, which is an Aeronautical Information Publication, and basically it was a big, thick binder like this, except it was small, so it's just kind of this size here, and kind of a neat system to begin with, but not really. So when you graduate, your graduation present from NAV Canada, I think it is, no, Transport Canada in this case, would be in the mail. You'd get this nice AIP. And so you're all excited, hey, I got my AIP, I'm a real pilot now and whatever. And then every 3 to 4 months, they would send you this nice little envelope, and it would have a whole bunch of changes with your AIP. And so as a brand new excited pilot, you get your first envelope in the mail and you go, great, that's awesome. So you pull it all out and it gives you instructions that says, please replace this page with this page. And so you go in there, you find it, you pull it out, put the new one in. Okay, please replace this page. It's like 25 pages or something that you're pulling out and replacing. And the first time, you're all excited, so you do it. The second time, you're busy, and so maybe it gets left for a few days and then you do it. The third time, you're like, yeah, I'll get to it later. And then the fourth time, it just goes in the garbage and you forget about it. All right? Now, that's actually what was happening with most pilots, because I was one of them. And, and I know that it was happening with everybody else because they changed the system. They said, hey, all these pilots have these AIPs that are years out of date because nobody's actually keeping these things up to date. So what's the use? Let's figure out a different system, right? So then they decided all the pilots are going to get this book when they graduate, and every 4 months they're going to get a brand new book, and they don't have to pay for it. That's really cool. Except that's a lot of trees that they're cutting down, right? And so they did that for a year and a half maybe or something, and I think they decided that's just too many books to publish for everybody all the time. And so then they cut the books, they put it online, and they said you can get the books by subscription if you want to. So you got to pay for it, and you can get them if you want. So they went to that system, and that's the system that they're at now. So for a little while, we just went to the online version. I said, yeah, the online version is just fine because it was actually awesome because it wasn't PDF version. And like I say, you could just jump on there, go to the general section, find what you're looking for, boom. You could, I think you could search it or
The
something
whole
like
PDF
that.
is hot linked.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's okay. But I find that it's just not super user-friendly, especially when they're trying to load up PDFs and it's not happening right away and stuff like that. But it's okay. I find it a little bit more laborsome than this, obviously. Anyway, so it's a little bit harder to search now, so I find that the hardcover books are a little bit better. But that's the AIM. Any questions on that?
No.
Okay, those are your two #1 references for anything in this course. It'll be most likely in one of those two books. Okay? Obviously, we have other ones that are useful for other things as well, and sometimes the other books kind of explain certain things in these ones in the cars a little bit more simply, but those are your two big references. So, everybody's good on that?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. P-Star. So I showed a couple of you guys this during the day. Everybody obviously put up your hand if you don't know what the P-Star is at this point. Okay, P-Star. Yes, so that test right there is the P-Star. Okay, so at the beginning of the test, you might want to write on the first page there. That's just where the next tab is here. Yeah. Instead of whatever it says there, which I think is...
Student Pilot Study Guide.
Yeah, exactly. Just above that, just write P-star. Because that's what it'll be referred to by everybody, always, ever, anywhere. Okay, so P-star. So the P-star is a 200-question study guide that you guys are going to go through, make sure you get all the right answers, and then you're going to study that study guide, and we're going to give you a test that is 50 questions out of those 200. Okay? It's identical questions, there's no wording change, there's no nothing. It's just 50 random selected questions out of the 200. It's a closed book. It's actually one of the few closed book tests. And so it's a closed book test, you have to get 90% on it. So it's something that once you guys are done the test, the 200 question test, you're going to want to study it 2, maybe 3 times through until you're feeling pretty comfortable with it. Once you feel comfortable, come to me, say, hey, I'm ready to do my P-star. Great, we'll give you the test. Hopefully it goes good. If it doesn't, you study a bit harder. We got a second version. You can do the second version. That's fine. Okay? You don't want to just wing it and go, I don't know, I haven't really studied, but I'll just give it a try. You want to study for it. So.
And then once we've done those, we have to go...
Yeah, so these have nothing to do with the actual written over at Transport Canada. These are to basically certify you to go solo. So once you've done the P-star and the radio, which we're about to talk about, then you're good for going solo. So, yeah. So it's not a multi-step thing. It's not like you do this, then you do our P-star, and then you go do Transport Canada's test.
Sorry, I thought we had to go do the P-star actual test at Transport.
No, we have it here. Yeah. So. Okay, so now what I was showing a couple of you guys earlier, do you still have it open
Still
somewhere?
open.
Right here. Okay, so if you Google search Principal Air P-star, Okay, just Google it, Principal Air P-Star. Principal Air is a fixed-wing flight school that's in Chilliwack. Let me go back. I'll go back to where we got to.
Return to table of contents. Bottom right.
Yeah, wonderful. Perfect. Oh, you guys have enlarged this?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this is what you should get to. This should be the first link when you Google Principal Air P-Star. Okay? The reason I recommend this is because they've put a lot of work into this and made it very user-friendly and stuff. There's a million P-Stars online, by the way. You can use any one you want. I don't really care. Because they're all basic, though they should all be the same. Unless somebody's punched something in wrong or something. But so these are all the sections that you guys are going to be going through. As I was showing a couple of you earlier, you click on the first section if that's where you're starting. Here's question number 1. This is going to be identical to the way you guys are seeing it on your hard copy. Okay? So what I would recommend to make your life easy, to make the P-Star go really fast, is you jump on here, you have the hard copy in front of you, and then you read the question and go, okay, I think the answer is C, right? And then you're going to just, general knowledge, like do I know the answer, yes or no, whatever. That's fine. If you don't, you're going to open up the reference. So here's a quick guide to the reference. And you're going to spend a few minutes reading through the reference. It won't take you that long. And after reading the reference, you're going to say, well, was I right or wrong? Well, I don't know. Let's say it's still C, or in this case, 3. So we think, yeah, okay, that's the answer. We get answer, and nope, I was wrong. It's actually number 2. And so you read through that and go, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Good. So now you're going to go back to your hard copy. You're going to circle answer number 2. Then you know in your hard copy you definitely got the right answer. Okay? This is going to be a lot quicker than saying, okay, well, the reference is in the AIM rack 1.10, and you have to dig it up from here, and the cars, trying to search in the cars. If you have the hardcover book, it's going to be pretty quick in there as well, but it's just going to be a lot quicker going through. You're still going to find it in the actual reference, which is nice. I like that they didn't just give you the answer, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like, oh yeah, okay, I'm going to guess and say get the answer in 2, and I don't know why it's 2, but I'll go on to the next thing. It's awesome that they gave you that reference right there. So you can actually spend the 5 minutes it's going to take you to read through and understand it. So this is what I would highly, highly suggest to get through the P-Star. You'll get through it quick, it'll be easy, and you'll memorize a lot as you go through it. The nice thing is, it seems like a lot because it's 200 questions. By the time you've actually spent the time reading through the references and finding the answers and stuff, you're going to find by the time that you're done and then you study it through again, you're going to remember a lot of it. Mm-hmm. And then by the time you study it through one more time, it's going to be like, man, I'm acing this thing. Like, I rock at this. And then you're going to go do the actual test and it'll be fine. So, sounds good? Cool. That's the P-Star. I'll leave that open for whoever wants that open. Okay, cool. The next thing I want to go over is the radio. So we've covered, we've covered that. So the radio exam. It's going to be a little bit before you guys get to that, but I just want to touch on it. When you guys do get to it, so it's this section right here. It's called the Study Guide for Restricted Operators Certificate with Aeronautical Qualification. Excellent. If you guys want to, you can write on your little tabs on the outside there, just to help make it a little easier to flip to stuff when you actually want to find it. So this is a little bit more abstract studying than the P-Star. The P-Star is pretty cut and dry. You have 200 questions, you do them, you study them, and that's it, right? This is just a guide that you have to read through. I think it's like 20 pages long or something like that. And it's just going to talk you through everything that you need to know about how to communicate on a radio, how to declare an emergency, how to cancel an emergency, the phonetic alphabet, the order of control, like if somebody has an emergency, that's more important than you doing a regular radio call or whatever, right? So it's going to talk about all that. It's going to talk about some of the specific words that we use on the radio that you wouldn't use in other language, Roger and whatever, and when to use it and when not to use it and stuff. So reading through this guide will be really helpful. I have a highlighted version of this guide. So when you guys get done the P-Star and you start doing this, let me know. I'll give you the highlighted guide. You guys can highlight your own, and then it'll help you. It'll be way quicker to study because then you know the specific things that you're going to be doing on the test. So So you're going to study through this. Make sure you get the highlighted guide from me, or one of the first of you can get it, and then you guys can all copy the other one or whatever. Once you've studied through this, there is a 25-question written exam. It's multiple choice. So 25 questions, and then after you've done that, you have to get 70% on that one to pass. There's a 16-question oral exam with me. So it's relatively easy if you've studied for it. It's not too bad. It's kind of similar for those of you that have already done your English exam. It's a little bit similar to an English exam in the sense that it's just communication on the radio, essentially. Some of it's just a few questions that I have to ask, but some of it's just communication type stuff, like, give me an initial radio call from outside the control zone or something like that, and we communicate like I'm on the tower and you're the helicopter. So that's the study guide for that. We'll highlight it. That'll make it easy. Any questions?
No.
Yes.
Is there any tests that we can't redo?
No, you can redo all of them. These two are in-house, so theoretically you fail them, you study again, you do them again, as many times as you need to, hopefully not more than twice or something like that. The Transport Canada written exam, it's a good question by the way. The Transport Canada written exam, you can fail it. There's two ways to fail it. There's 4 topics. You need to get 60% in each of the topics. Total needs to be 60%, but you have to pass each topic. If you fail a topic, or even 2 topics, maybe you got 75% on 2 topics and 55% on 2 topics or something like that, right? They're going to make you redo those 2 topics. So if you get, I don't actually know if you could fail 3 topics and just have to do those 3. I've never really seen that before. I think if that was the case, you'd probably get an overall too low of mark, and then you would just fail the whole thing, I'm guessing. But at any rate, if you do fail something on that test, you have to wait 2 weeks before you can rewrite that one. So that one's a little bit bigger of a deal. You want to make sure that you study hard enough to pass that one the first time. So.
Is there
But
any
enough.
sort of study guide for?
Yeah, so we have 4 practice exams that are very similar to that one, and they're 100 questions each. That test is 100 questions,
Okay.
and so yeah, we get you studying through those 4 until you're getting into the 90s, well into the 90s, and then if you're getting the 90s on ours, you should have no problem whatsoever passing that one.
Okay.
So yeah,
Cool.
but yeah, great question. All right, any other questions? No? Good.
No.
If you guys have questions on anything, please ask.